I can do anything I want. Let me just say this right off the bat, though. Love your story. Love the fact that when people doubted you, you dug in literally, and you built something from scratch, and you've built it to where you are. And obviously, you have a service heart. This is why I'm really honored to be on with you, Gary. So thank you. I mean that. And so my story. Well, I grew up. I'm a redneck from Alabama, and I don't have a postgraduate degree, and I didn't go to some Ivy League school. I went to the University of Alabama, and I was really here. It is. I was the first generation of attention deficit disorder kids. There wasn't ADHD. There was just ADD, and it was in the 80s. And I had a psychologist diagnose me and put me on Ritalin. But I was told as a kid that I was not smart. I was told as a kid that I should be in, the special needs classes at school. I was made fun of in that regard. This was a big struggle for me in my life. But what I really ultimately realized was they never told you that having attention deficit disorder, which almost all entrepreneurs do, is a superpower. And it doesn't have to be a negative. It's just how you look at it. But it was all negative back in the day. It was only, you're going to fail. You're going to be hard. You're not really good at class. You're not good at school. You can't pay attention. Everything was associated with negative around it. Ultimately, I knew, Gary, that for my life, I needed to do something I had to be passionate about, or I couldn't even concentrate to do it, right? And that's where I found out I wasn't so dumb after all, because if I was really passionate about it, I was probably pretty smart. And I only cared about two things growing up, politics and college football. And I'm 5'10", 155 pounds. College football wasn't going to be really a choice for me. And I wasn't interested. I wasn't in some young Republicans club or anything like that. But I just studied and read, and I really became obsessed with how political campaigns were run and what those were about. I, watched, when I was 18 years old, the Bill Clinton coming out of nowhere on death's doorstep of his primary campaign to win the primary and then beat an incumbent president. And I was fascinated by that. The first election I ever paid attention to really was 1988. With Lee Atwater's guidance, with George H.W. Bush beating Dukakis. And I just became obsessed with that. And so I never wanted to run for office. I don't know how anybody would ever want to do that. But I became obsessed with the fact that how does it work behind the scenes to help people get elected? And I just became fascinated by it. In 1996, that was my first political campaign. And, I got the bug. I got hooked. It didn't matter that I worked 24/7. It didn't matter that I worked on a 3-year period. In the late 90s and early 2000s, there was a 3-year period where I had 21 days off total. You never have a day off when you work in politics. And I just became obsessed with it. In running campaigns and working on presidential campaigns and Senate races, governor's races all over the country. Yeah. And ultimately, I found a pattern. And this is maybe something I'm really good at and something that I have the ability to do. But I notice anomalies. And I noticed that in politics, we have a certain formula that we utilize in marketing to win elections. And the funny thing is that the candidates we work with, they run this formula. Our opponents run this formula. It's a mano-a-mano, very competitive marketplace. By the way, you're wearing a Chicago White Sox jersey on right now as we were doing this interview, and sports teams utilize this exact same formula to win championships. But what I realized was that there was nobody out there in the corporate world that was utilizing this exact formula in their marketing of their business. And I became obsessed with understanding that. And so I spent a decade studying that, applying those principles into businesses, and then having explosive results, which ultimately led to me writing the book. And that's kind of where I am right now.
What's the name of your book?
Yeah, it's called The Undefeated Marketing System: How to Grow Your Business and Build Your Audience Using the Secret Formula That Elects Presidents.